It started with a box. Just a simple, dusty box tucked away in the attic of a house they had lived in for almost 7 years. Daniel wasn't looking for anything in particular. He had just gone up there to find an old lamp Sarah had asked about. But as his fingers grazed the edge of the box and he pulled it from behind a pile of winter coats, something told him not to ignore it. It was taped shut, but the cardboard had grown soft with time. No label, no name, just a faint floral scent like dried lavender and old paper. Curiosity got the better of him. He opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, neatly tied with faded pink ribbon, their edges curled and fragile. At first, he smiled. Maybe they were her childhood mementos or old family notes. But as he unfolded the first page and read the words scrawled in elegant handwriting, his heart began to pound. My dearest Sarah, every night I lie awake thinking of the life we could have had. I wonder if you think of me too, if your heart still remembers what we once were. He froze. He read it again. And then again. The date at the top was from 3 years ago. Not 10, not 20. 3. Letter after letter, each one told a story, a love story. But not theirs. The writer spoke of longing, of regret, of quiet moments stolen in the past. And Sarah, she had responded. Her handwriting filled half the stack. Each letter written with care, with emotion, with honesty, too much honesty. Daniel sat on the attic floor, reading through every line like a man trying to decipher a foreign language. He wanted to believe this was someone else's box. A relative, a friend, something misplaced, but every reference matched. The apartment they once lived in, the cafe they had first met, the dog they once thought about adopting. It was all her. It was all him. And yet, it wasn't him. The man she was writing to was named Lucas. He remembered Lucas vaguely. Sarah had once mentioned him, just in passing. A guy I dated briefly before I met you. That's all. That's all it was supposed to be. A footnote in her life. Nothing more. But these letters told a different story. As he read deeper into the stack, he felt a coldness settle over him. The dates weren't from long ago. Some were recent. Last year. 6 months ago. One letter, still unsealed, was dated only a week before their anniversary. Lucas, sometimes when I'm with him, I imagine it's you. I know how wrong it is. I hate myself for it. But you always made me feel alive in a way he never could. Daniel didn't know how long he sat there. The sun had shifted in the attic window. His fingers trembled as he held the papers, his breath shallow. This wasn't just emotional baggage. This wasn't some old flame she tucked away. This was something living, something active. She had kept these, protected them, hidden them. She had come up here again and again to add more. When he finally climbed down from the attic, the house looked different. The walls, the furniture, even her coffee mug on the counter, it all felt like part of a carefully staged illusion, like he was walking through a memory of someone else's life. That evening, he said nothing. He watched her laugh at some show on TV. He watched her brush her hair before bed, hum a tune in the kitchen. And in all of it, he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Distance. He remembered the time they spent apart while she went to that writing retreat in Vermont. 4 weeks. She said it was to clear her mind and get back into herself. But now he remembered how strange she had been when she came back. Restless, distant, and she kept her phone close to her chest after that. He remembered asking her if everything was okay. She smiled and kissed him. Just tired, she said. But now that memory burned. The next day, Daniel stayed home from work. Sarah had left early for a meeting. He sat at the kitchen table with the letters spread before him, trying to understand when it all began, trying to decide what he was supposed to do with this. He thought about confronting her, demanding the truth, screaming, crying. He imagined every scenario, but what stopped him was the question that crept in at 3 a.m. when he lay beside her in the dark, listening to her breathe. The last letter, the most recent one, ended with a sentence that replayed in his mind over and over. "I'm almost ready, Lucas. I just need to be sure." Sure of what? Was she choosing? Was she waiting? He needed answers. But more than that, he needed to know if the life he had built was already over, only no one had told him yet. Daniel couldn't sleep. The discovery had rooted itself in his chest like a splinter, deep, painful, impossible to ignore. Every moment around Sarah now felt staged, artificial. The way she touched his shoulder, the way she asked how his day was, it all seemed like a cover, a layer masking something else, something real. He spent the next week watching, listening, remembering. He noticed things that, before, he had dismissed. The way she turned her phone face down when she wasn't using it. How she always smiled politely when he suggested they go away for the weekend, only to find excuses why they couldn't. She had stopped using his name in conversations. He hadn't realized that until now. He thought about asking her outright, but every time he looked into her eyes, he froze. He still loved her. That was the cruelest part. Even with the truth clinging to his ribs, he still loved her. And yet, he wasn't sure who he loved anymore. One night, while Sarah was out with friends from work, Daniel went back to the attic. The letters were still there, still bundled in their pink ribbon. But he noticed something new, an empty envelope with today's date scribbled in the corner. No contents, just the shell. He checked again. Nothing inside. Had she written another letter today? And if so, where was it? He searched the house, slowly, carefully, drawer by drawer, until he opened the desk in the guest room, the one she used as her workspace. There, in a small journal tucked beneath some notebooks, he found it. A letter. Not to Lucas, to herself. "I don't know what I want anymore. Daniel hasn't done anything wrong, but I feel empty when I'm with him, and when I talk to Lucas, it's like I'm still alive. But am I really going to throw away my marriage for a fantasy?" She hadn't sent it. Not yet. But the handwriting was angry, uncertain, torn. Daniel sank into the desk chair, the words playing over and over in his mind. Daniel hasn't done anything wrong. Why did that line hurt more than the rest? It meant she saw his goodness. She saw that he was trying. And it wasn't enough. For a moment, he thought of packing a bag. Just leaving. Disappearing. But instead, he closed the journal, put everything back, and returned to the kitchen. When Sarah came home that night, she was glowing from wine and laughter. She kissed him on the cheek and poured herself a glass of water. He asked how her night was. She said fine, nothing more. The next day, Daniel made a decision. He would follow her. He felt sick doing it, but he needed the truth, not the fragments, not the half answers. The truth. She said she was going to a yoga class, but instead she drove to a neighborhood Daniel didn't recognize, a quiet street. She parked, sat in her car for a full 5 minutes, and then walked to a small white house at the end of the road. A man opened the door. Daniel didn't need to guess who it was. Lucas? He watched her step inside. The door closed. He sat in his own car, gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He thought of calling her, of storming the door, of yelling. But he did none of those things. He waited for over an hour. When she finally returned to her car, her eyes were red. She had been crying. He followed her home, heart heavy, body numb. She didn't say anything that night, and neither did he. But something shifted after that. Sarah grew quieter, more distant, as if she knew he knew, even if no words had been spoken. Days passed. Then one evening, as they sat across from each other eating pasta in near silence, Sarah put down her fork. "Daniel," she said softly, "are you happy?" He looked up. Her eyes were tired, searching. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Are you?" She didn't answer right away. "Sometimes," she whispered, "but not like before." He nodded. "Are you in love with him?" Her lips trembled. "I thought I was. Maybe I still am. But it's not. It's not the same." They sat there, both unraveling. Quietly, respectfully. He could have shouted. He could have cried. But instead he said, "Then maybe you should go, if that's what you want." And that's when she broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She shook her head violently. "I don't know what I want," she sobbed. "I hate myself for what I did. I never meant for this to happen. I kept waiting for us to fix, and we never did." Daniel walked around the table and sat beside her. He didn't hold her. He just sat, listening. "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid that life with you was becoming still. That maybe I'd die never feeling that kind of passion again. And then Lucas came back, and it was like everything burst open." He swallowed hard. "And now I feel lost and ashamed and guilty because you've always been kind to me, and I threw that away." Something he had carried alone for 6 months. He got up, walked to the drawer, and pulled out the envelope marked from the hospital. He placed it in front of her. "What is this?" she asked, confused. "Open it." She read it slowly. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears all over again. "You're sick?" He nodded. "They say a year. Maybe more, maybe less. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want you to treat me differently. I wanted us to feel normal, even if it wasn't. I thought I blamed you." Daniel looked at her and said gently, "I know." Sarah didn't sleep that night. She lay awake next to Daniel, staring at the ceiling, her heart a storm of guilt and fear. The truth of his illness clung to her like wet cloth, suffocating, cold. She had wasted so much time chasing a feeling, convincing herself that she deserved something more, something electric. And now, faced with the reality of losing the man who had loved her without condition, she could barely breathe. In the morning, she made breakfast. For the first time in weeks, Daniel sat at the table and ate the eggs and toast without pushing the plate away. They didn't speak much. But when their eyes met, there was something unspoken that passed between them. Tiredness, pain, maybe a sliver of something like forgiveness. Sarah didn't see Lucas again. She deleted his number, erased every message, blocked every account. It didn't undo what she had done, but it was something, a beginning. Daniel spent the next few weeks going to doctor appointments, tests, scans. Sarah came with him, quietly sitting in the corner, holding his hand when he let her. She didn't ask questions. She just stayed. And sometimes that was enough. They started walking together in the evenings. It had been so long since they did that. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It had softened, turned into something companionable. Sometimes they would talk about nothing. The weather, the neighbor's annoying dog, what show to watch. Other times, Sarah would suddenly stop mid-sentence, her voice breaking, and say, "I'm sorry," and Daniel would just nod. One night, as they sat on a bench under the dim glow of a streetlight, she asked him, "What do you want to do with the time you have left?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He looked up at the stars as if they might hold some secret. "I want to feel real," he said, finally. "I don't want pity or sadness or fake smiles. I want the truth, even if it's ugly. Even if that truth is that I hurt you?" "Yes," he said, "because the truth means there's still something honest between us, and that's more than most people ever have." Sarah wiped her eyes. I want to be here with you. Not because I feel guilty, but because I love you. I didn't realize how much until I almost lost you. Daniel nodded again, slowly. Then let's be here. Together. However long we've got. They made a pact that night. No lies, no pretending. Every emotion, raw, messy, human, would be allowed. Some days were beautiful. They laughed, they cooked together, they even made love again, tenderly, clumsily, like rediscovering a language they had forgotten. Other days were hard. Daniel would get dizzy, tired, sick. Sarah would break down, not from what he said, but from how quiet he became. And still they stayed. Months passed. The end was never far, but they stopped fearing it. It became a shadow in the corner, always present, but no longer in control. Daniel began writing. Small entries, thoughts, fragments. Sometimes he would read them aloud to her. I used to think life was measured in achievements. Promotions, anniversaries, milestones. But now I think it's measured in ordinary moments. The way she tucks her hair behind her ear when she's thinking, the way she hums when she's chopping vegetables. These are the things I'll remember. These are the things that matter. Sarah would cry quietly, holding his hand. Lucas never reached out. Maybe he knew, maybe he didn't. It no longer mattered. One day, Daniel asked her to drive him to the ocean. It was cold and windy, and they had to bundle up in coats and scarves. But when they got there, he stepped out of the car slowly, leaning on her arm, and just looked. The sky was gray, but vast. I always thought I'd see this again, alone, he said softly. You're not alone, she replied. He looked at her, his eyes filled with something deep and calm. I know. That night, he fell asleep on the couch with his head in her lap. She stroked his hair, watching the rise and fall of his chest, memorizing the rhythm, the weight of him. But he never asked her to leave the room. He let her see him, the pain, the fear, the fragility, and she stayed. One morning she woke up and knew before she even touched him. He was gone. There was no drama, no final words. Just the quiet stillness of a man who had fought to hold on to meaning and let go when he was ready. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She held his hand and whispered, "Thank you for letting me stay." The funeral was small. A few friends, some coworkers, people who had no idea what they had survived together. After everyone left, Sarah stayed behind. She placed the bundle of letters he had written in the casket. Not the ones she had once hidden, but the ones he wrote after, the ones about her. She walked home alone, but she didn't feel alone. Daniel had forgiven her, not in words, not with a grand gesture, but in how he looked at her in those final months, in how he let her love him, broken as they both were. And in that forgiveness, she found a reason to keep living, not in punishment, not in grief, in the feeling of the wind on her face as she stood by the sea, whispering goodbye.